So I spent an hour on stage with Alex Hormozi and Sam Ovens a couple weeks ago at the school games. They invited me up there because I'm making $300,000 a month with a one-man community. And I just wanted to peel back the curtain and give you guys everything that I learned from talking to these two prolific business people. I'm going to be going through some of the event recording, and then I'm also going to be doing a little segment on why I think Alex Hormozi has been so successful, and then why I think Sam Ovens has been so successful as well. And I just basically want to peel back the curtain, show you guys everything that I learned while I was there, maybe talk about some directions I'm going to take my business as a result of it. The idea being that, these two are truly exceptional people, and being in their presence for a little period of time was very illuminating to me in a variety of ways that I didn't really expect them to be. I was kind of hesitant to go to the school games and just like engage with these sorts of events in general, because I figured they just took time away from daily accountability and the things that I really cared about. But I gained such immense value just being around them that I thought that it was a no-brainer for me to make a video on it. So I'm going to be producing a much higher quality video and probably publishing it on my main channel, just because I think that there's a lot more viewership there. And because of that, I have to format the information a little bit differently. If you don't know who I am, I do have another YouTube channel. Definitely not that one. I have another YouTube channel called just first name, last name, that has 168K subs. It's kind of where I got most of my inbound for Maker School and the rest of my products. So definitely, check that video out if you want like a condensed, maybe like a little fine-tuned version of what I'm going to tell you here. But this is just going to be my thoughts. I'm just going to dump them all. And then, hopefully you guys can do with that what you will. Okay, so I'm going to be playing some of the event recording back, but basically, to make a long story short, first hour of this event was Alex Hormozi and Sam Ovens talking about the future of school, the way that they see communities in general going, the way that they see maybe some information products in general moving, how they think that AI is going to impact a fair number of things, and so on and so forth. So you guys can check that video out if you want. The part that concerns me is when they invited me on stage to talk about how I ended up being as successful as I was with school. So I'm just going to mute some of this here. And then, they ended up inviting me right around this point.
You think he should sit on the other side?
So we're just interrogating kind of? Yeah. Make it real.
I should note that I don't really look nervous here, but I'm pretty nervous at this point. My heart's probably beating like 130 beats a minute. I'm like, holy shit, is Alex Hormozi freaking ripped? You see it in videos, but I'm like, I don't think there's going to be enough room up there for all of us.
Really aggressive.
That's going to be fun.
You get the green chair for money.
Very cool.
Here, I'm gonna do one of these.
Thank you.
Need a little more breathing room.
So I'll do it.
And so I was kind of intimidated initially when I was put in the center of these two, because I was just like, I feel like I'm going to look pretty bad just being in the center of these two. They're both going to be like staring at me being like, why did you do this? How did you do this? How did you do this? And I was kind of, I want to say mildly inconvenienced by the fact that I'd have to like turn around over and over and over again. So right off the bat, I was just like, okay, well, this is going to be pretty interesting.
A little intro for Nick, who is Nick Saraev. Is that how you say it?
No. And he just totally butchered the hell out of my name.
Not even close, no.
Okay. What do you say?
It's Saraev.
All right, Nick Saraev. He is #1 on school with 330 grand MRR. He's currently the GOAT, which is... I wasn't even finished because it gets better. He has no team and 95% profit margins.
So at this point, I'm like, oh, damn, how should I sit, Like, I'm going to put my hand over here and make it look like I'm not shaky. I was kind of concerned about the mic as well, just because, just the situation that I'm not very often. And most of the time, I'm just speaking to my camera, right? To be abundantly clear. Oh, sorry, wrong page there. Most of the time, I'm just speaking to my camera, right? Nobody else in the room, certainly not like 40 people or so, and then these two dudes who I respect the hell out of to my left and to my right. So, I can already like talk a little bit about some learnings from there. And that's that I think the bar for what I previously considered that you needed to be in order to have a bunch of people listen to you was a lot lower than I previously thought. I didn't think that, I really had a right to be on stage speaking about this sort of stuff with these two until that moment in time when Sam Ovens was like, holy crap, can't believe you're doing this. And then Alex kept on saying like, hey, great work, man. Very impressive stuff. And I was like, no, shit. And Alex goes like, very impressive stuff. I'm like, maybe I'm doing something right after all. So that was pretty cool. And, the rest of the talk is basically them asking me various questions about.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I feel like I could get used to being up here. This is very comfy.
That's me trying to be funny. People laughed. You just couldn't hear it.
The chairs are great.
Yeah, right.
Are these cool chairs?
Yeah.
They're comfy.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, fan.
Okay, so we're going to just ask you some questions about your school.
Cool.
What's your school about?
So they just asked me a bunch of questions about like what Maker School is about and like the various niche and stuff like that I serve and how I did all this stuff. And then later on, we chat a little bit about content. So I'm just going to try jumping ahead to where Alex is discussing content.
They are.
You heard the story about like the short form creators at that VideoCon thing? Did you hear what happened?
No.
So like the YouTubers that were there, full
Oh, yeah.
stadium, and then the short form empty. This happened. Like this actually happened, and it was
Warms my
news.
heart.
Was that the video? What's it called?
VidCon.
Kirby? Yeah.
Yeah. Or did you go to that? Yeah, because
You-
Michael. Yeah, because my team went to that.
You
Yeah.
heard the story. You heard about But I think so. Yeah, it doesn't build depth.
Yeah.
It doesn't build a relationship, but it is the new discovery mechanism. I think it's I think of it kind of like Tinder now. So like people are like flick, 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 flick.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, and then swiping. I don't know which way it is. I haven't used Tinder. Right is right. Like you like it.
Yeah.
Okay. So you swipe right. That's like where's their YouTube?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So like it's how do you discover things that you might want to consume more of?
So a very interesting concept that I got from Sam right there was that short form is a discoverability play for long form, and long form is the conversion play. So one of the reasons why I focus so much on long form is obviously it is the thing that makes people want to convert. It's also very low production value requirements on my end because I can just like turn a camera on and then start talking about stuff. So if you want to talk about like inbound, how to grow like some product using inbound, you need to have some sort of long form, and it needs to be like maximal trust reputation stuff where it's just you talking, not you with super crazy fast cuts, not you with some B-roll every 5 seconds, but just you talking for a long period of time. And when you're like that, people just treat you as if you are another person, a cool person that makes a lot of money and has something that they want for sure, but still just another person. And it makes you and the product that you're selling just a lot easier to to move forward with. And so he framed it as Tinder, right? Where it's like, if you are on Tinder, there's like this like little profile picture with the person, maybe a brief little video of the person, then you swipe right. And if they swipe right, well, now you can like actually get to know them a little bit. Well, he's talking about adding an additional layer to the stack where now you're doing short form up at the top. Short form is like the Tinder where it's like, do I like this guy? If they swipe right to that, then they move down. And then the idea is you just push everything to your long form content. You don't try going from Instagram or TikTok or whatever to some other medium. So, I mean, like this might be considered really trivial and trite, but for me, this was like a big unlock, and it's changing how I'm going to be approaching my content moving forward, where basically like the entire point of all of my content is just going to be to get people into my long form. So my short form's whole goal is going to be to get people into my long form. So you're going to see that change with like my own content moving forward. It's going to be kind of neat.
Does this make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think it's sort of like your first pass, and then you direct them into your long form, and then that's basically your funnel. The CTA is like, hey, come check out the rest of my stuff, and then realize how much
It's
you
pretty
like me.
efficient at just rapidly trying to find something you like.
So if you want to gain influence, so like how do we get that depth, right? So like how do we we have these terms, and you said authenticity. I want to define it for everyone in a second, but like you gain influence with 4 things. So I just remember special. So SPCL, right? So S is status. And so what's status? So status is you control resources that other people want, right? If you're a bartender at a bar, in the bar, you control scarce resources. So you have status in the bar. You walk outside of the bar, you're just a bartender, no one gives a shit, right? But only when you control scarce resources, you have status. So that's number 1. And when as I go through each of these, you can do one thing that demonstrates all 4, to be very clear. They're not, but they are separate. You can do them independently, but some things do them all. The next one is P is power, right? Which is that I give you instructions, you follow those instructions, and a good thing happens for you. It's a reinforcement cycle. So fundamentally, you want to do stuff like the reason that Martha Stewart, in my opinion, was the first gigantic influencer is she literally gave women recipes to follow. And then they got a good result. And then they had their families who were like, this pie was amazing. And they were like, I attribute this success to following her instructions. And so then when she came out with a cookbook, the world bought it. And then when she started a store, the world bought it. Like she was the first self-made female billionaire, which I think is not nearly appreciated enough. Then she got witch hunted, but like she for sure, if she had not had that witch hunt, like I think she'd be number 2 on the self-made women's list or number 1 right now. Side note. So status is you control stuff that other people want. Number 2 is that you give people instructions, they follow and get a good thing. C is credibility, is that is a different way of saying like you have proof. Like I did this thing. Like look what I did, or like I have some proof that I am good at whatever I'm saying. And then L is likeness. So if you have somebody who's all 3 of the first things, and then somebody else looks just like you and acts like you and believes the same things as you, then you'll be more persuaded by that person, right? And so when you are getting depth in the content, these are the things that you want to be putting in, or at least being cognizant of. Now, so for example, like I sold Gym Launch, right? And that's a sale that doesn't really happen in the space. I don't really know anyone else who sold for a big number. And by doing that, it did a lot of things. So it was like, okay, well, I got status because I had something that people wanted, which can very really just be money. Like that is something that gives people status. You have power, which that one is what the long form content did. So I wouldn't have that from me just having this outcome. But it did give me C, credibility, because I have this proof. So the money and the exit, I would say the money is the status part. The exit is the credibility. And then the likenesses, if you look at my audience, a lot of them look like me. Not all, but if I look by percentage, a lot of them look like me. And if I look like Layla, I would have a different audience. Even if I had everything else. And she has a different audience than I do. And she and I believe a lot of the same things and talk a lot of the same stuff. But she has a very different audience than I do. So when you're thinking about, okay, and what are these things that are controllable for me? The biggest one is that you want to give people instructions that they can follow, which you do in your content, and then they get a good thing. And so they attribute that good thing to you. And so that they are more likely to follow another thing that you tell them to do because a good thing happened last time. You have credibility, which ideally you literally have these machines that you built. And if you have also, I don't know, did you build a business that did this as well?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And so that's the credibility part. And then if you have money as a result, then that's also something that gets them status. Also, you have a community that you're in charge of. So like all of these things kind of start laddering together, and they are dials. So,
yeah, and that was an extraordinarily unlock for me as well. I mean, it may seem pretty trivial, but this whole LC, SPCL, where it's like giving people instructions and having them follow it just naturally makes you the authority in the space, and then combining it in this systematic way with the rest of your content and how you approach things like mentioning your social proof and how you approach things like seeming like you are part of the audience that follows you. Although this is interesting because I feel like if you're just yourself long enough on the internet, eventually people that look like you and act like you and think like you do naturally gravitate towards you. If you combine these 4 things together, you have a fair amount of influence on the internet. Then I kind of understood this stuff and it was already sort of bumbling around the back of my head. But the big unlock for me was realizing just how much Alex Hormozi was like intentional about it. It may not seem this way, but he is like a content creator at core, and he is extraordinarily dialed into content creation. This is his skill. Is he up there publishing the videos on YouTube and Instagram and adding the hashtags? No, he's obviously not. But he is very, very deep into the psychology of what makes a content creator successful. And I mean, he's just giving you the whole roadmap right here, right now. I think I naturally stumbled on it just because I created a lot of content in a very short period of time, very quickly. He, though, like didn't naturally do it. He like scientifically did it over the course of the last like 5, 6, 7 years. So immediately after this, I actually went on Alex Hormozi's channel, and I've consumed some of his content, of course, but I wouldn't say I've consumed like anywhere near as much as a lot of other people. But I went through and I found his first few videos, and I saw just how undirected most of that content was and how he's evolved and gotten extraordinarily specific and dialed in with literally everything over the course of the last 7 years. I've also seen how much more consistent he's been recently, which is very valuable to me. And it changed my mind on a lot of things, like about how I was approaching content. I mean, I did the same thing. My initial content was very undirected, and it sort of changed since then. But yeah, it was very valuable for me to see. Okay, so, I could continue playing this here, but there is a whole video. You guys could check that out if you want. That's not the idea. I just wanted to focus on those 2 points there because I thought they were some of the most valuable, kind of like novel, interesting takeaways on things that like I hadn't really fully conceptualized. What I want to talk about now is why I think Alex Hormozi is so successful and why I think Sam Ovens is so successful, and then ultimately how I plan on incorporating these into my own business moving forward. Okay, so should we start with Sam Ovens or should we start with Alex Hormozi? Okay, let's start with Alex Hormozi. The biggest reason why I think the guy's crushing it so much is because he takes massive action and he approaches everything from a lens of massive action. What do I mean by massive action? He published, I think in the last month, was it 35,000 pieces of content? 35,000 pieces of content. I published probably 10 pieces of content in the last month. Even when I was at my peak and I was publishing an hour-long video or something like that every single day for 30 or 40 days, I wasn't producing 35,000 pieces of content. The total number of minutes of content I was producing might have been similar to him, and maybe that's why I was seeing that much growth. But he's producing so much content, it's insane. Vast majority of the stuff is going to be short form, of course. And it's probably going to be leading to that discoverability thing that Sam Ovens was talking about at the beginning of the video. But he is producing hundreds of times more than basically anybody else. It is unreasonable to expect that he would not be seeing 100 times the results, or at least some increased number of results. So the massive action here is unreal. What I find that a lot of people do is that they will see success with something and they'll think, oh, things are going well, I'll just keep doing the thing. Alex Hormozi doesn't do this. He sees success with something. He doesn't go, oh, I'll just keep doing it. He says, I need to 1000x what I am doing. If this is delivering me a return right now on X, I need to 1000 times the input and they get 1000 times X. You know what I mean? So he takes this very simple, almost like brute force caveman approach to this stuff. And it's why he's winning. I mean, he just creates way more content than everybody else. My whole point with the school games and the community, and one of the reasons why my community was so much better than so many other people's, like why I made so much more money, is because if you just look at my activity graph, look at this. It's just green, right? These are all outputs. These are all days that I've showed up and then I've done 100 activities, 148, 144, 255, 171, 227, 222. This is me just showing up for a very long period of time and then just like contributing way more volume to school than anybody else is doing, right? If you go down to the school games list, you go all time, and then you just look at anybody else. I'm not going to call people out here, but if you just look at anybody else, you click on their profile, you just work all the way down to the bottom, 20. You'll be hard pressed to find people that have 1/10 of what I have in terms of volume. So again, if I'm doing at least 10 times the volume, I'm obviously going to be reaping some sort of upside. And here's the thing, even though there are diminishing returns to all this stuff, because there are diminishing returns in life, right? Keep pressing the same button, doesn't keep delivering the same result, it delivers less and less over time. Even if they're diminishing returns, you just keep doing the thing. You just keep doing the thing regardless of the diminishing returns. And you say, diminishing returns, that's a problem I'll solve later. So that's number one. The second big thing is his consistency in content and just showing up in general. Alex is super consistent, okay? He takes massive action and then he does it really consistently. Do you want to see his workout routine? His workout routine is like the definition of massive action multiplied by consistency. He worked out every single day, or maybe not every single day, but 3 days on, 1 day off for a 42-day training cycle. And then he just worked full body basically every single day, every single workout, nonstop. And he did it in the morning and then he did it in the evening as well. This man combines consistency with massive action. He just does so much more volume than anybody thinks is reasonable whatsoever. And you don't see it from the outside looking in. You think that he's a strategic genius and a tactical genius. And to some extent, I'm sure that he is. I just talked about how he's very scientific about this. But he learned all of this because he just did 100 times the volume that everybody else did. So I like this because it parallels my own approach. And it validates that what I'm doing here is what other successful people that are making a ton of money that I want to be like are doing. But do not for a minute think that, you can achieve anywhere near the same level of success that Alex Hormozi has, or Sam Ovens, or even I, let's say, without some form of consistency. So I don't know if he said this or if this is me putting words in his mouth, but being consistent about something, doing it every day for a very long period of time is like the start line to success. It's like if you're trying to get into some big roller coaster here, okay? And there's some big, long lineup, and there's just all these people and whatever. This is me trying to draw people. And, on the side, sometimes they say you must be at least this tall to enter. And this tall, the height is like 4 feet, 2 inches. And it's supposed to make it so that if you're a kid, you have to measure yourself up against the thing in order to get in. And if you're not big enough, then you can't get in. This is it. Being consistent and doing stuff every single day is like the start line. It's like the gate that you must cross in order to be successful. And the second that you are done with that, well, now you can actually get in to the cool, zany sort of roller coaster, and you can, do whatever the hell you want. You can get on the tracks and actually play the game and start featuring the ups and downs. But if you don't at least make it past that initial roller coaster entry line where you must be 4 foot 2 inches to freaking come, you must be, consistent insofar that you do things every day in order to get into the roller coaster ride. There's no way in hell you're going to make it. Okay, so massive action, consistency, and then also legitimacy. Legitimacy is the big thing. Am I spelling that right? Yeah, I think so. So check it out. Alex undoubtedly probably makes the majority of his money from coaching services, workshops, that sort of stuff. But you don't think of him as somebody that sells workshops or coaching services or whatnot. You think of him as a guy that is associated with private equity, wealth management, and an advisory firm of acquisition.com. And the reason why is because, one, he touts acquisition.com all the time and he markets it 24/7. And number two, because acquisition.com has some pretty cool social proof. So if you guys don't know, acquisition.com is his business where, he basically acquires a stake in a bunch of other companies. And right now the portfolio is about $250 million in annual revenue, which may seem really crazy, $250 million in annual revenue. But I think if you were to zoom out a little bit, you'd realize it's probably not actually that crazy. I imagine most of the businesses that he works with are probably, 50% margin or something. It's $125 million in revenue, $125 million in revenue. I don't know if the average business that he's working with is 10 mil. Realistically, how many businesses is that? That's 12 businesses, right? So I don't know if this is, if this is at all accurate. I'm just pulling numbers out of my ass, but you naturally trust him, not as a content creator or a producer or a consultant, but is like a high level advisor who crushes it with business because he has the credibility of a $250 million annual revenue portfolio. Okay, and who knows? Maybe some of these businesses have 5% margins or something. It's one of those businesses that just scales the hell out of ads. I don't know for sure, but yeah, when you listen to him talk, you take him seriously because of that portfolio piece and because of the whole advisory and the idea that he's investing and stuff. So I have no doubt in my mind that he did all of this stuff intentionally. He didn't just wander on it. As you could tell, he's very scientific about this process, and he's very scientific about how he applies psychology to his content. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's oh, I don't know what the hell happened there. I wouldn't really be surprised if he workshop the hell out of this and try to figure it out ahead of time. But yeah, these are the three main things that I think are really at the core of why he's been hyper successful over the course of the last little while. Okay, the legitimacy play is huge. All right, so that's Alex Hormozi. Let's talk a little bit about Sam Ovens, the guy who created School, who's now responsible for billions of dollars in maybe $1 billion. I think they use that in their ads. I'm not entirely sure, just based off of memory. Like our community owners make over $1 billion a year or something like that. So if you think about it, like that's a fair chunk of the freaking economy, right? Like that's a very big move. And before this, he ran consulting.com, if you guys are familiar, which was probably like one of the biggest it's like, one of the biggest like consulting style operations, where he also did a bunch of legitimacy plays to solidify this. This is sort of like the previous generation, I want to say, of like info products and stuff like this. But you guys have probably all seen some variant of this, right? Guy in a blue suit with a super cool accent talking about consulting.com. So why is he so successful? What did I take away from this that you guys could take away from? Sam is like ruthless simplicity. Okay, ruthless simplicity. When I say ruthless simplicity, I mean like I've never seen a guy this hyper-focused on ensuring that everything is as simple as humanly possible. Why have 4 revenue streams when you can have 1? Like that is something that I think he would probably look me in the eyes and say without skipping a beat. Now, I can give you a million reasons why you could have 4 revenue streams. The diversification potential of having more money, and then the safety and risk mitigation that's involved in. The fact that like some things just perform better. He doesn't care about any of that stuff. He wants his shit to be as simple as humanly possible at all levels of the stack. And he thinks that the simpler that things are, then the simpler it'll be to like build his team out, the simpler that it'll be to like clarify the value proposition of the product, and so on and so forth. He is the most focused on simplicity that I have ever seen in my life. I think we were talking about something. I don't remember exactly what it was. I think it was like other platforms similar to School. And one of the platforms there, somebody in a group, we were in like a group of like 5 or 10 people. And he was like, oh, like, are you guys planning on introducing this to School? Because all these other platforms do it. And he's like, no. And everybody just kind of stopped for a second. They're like, wait, what? Why? Like, why wouldn't you want to introduce this really simple feature to School? And he's like, well, we don't want to do 100 things because then we'd be shit at all of them. We'd rather be really good at just one thing. And that's what I've thought of. That's how I built School from the ground up. And it just puts so much of this into perspective for me as somebody that has tried starting a couple of software products before and then failed miserably. He doesn't care about introducing 100 features, even if they would, objectively speaking, probably improve the quality of life of the people that use the product by some percentage points. Because at every step along the way, every time you introduce an additional point of complexity, there are things that you know, and then there are things that you don't know. And he's focused on minimizing both of those. Who knows? Maybe the things that you know are totally within scope and dealable with, but the things that you don't know are like 5x the cost, and you just have no idea about that. So he just doesn't even want to gamble with that. He just wants to focus on like the core features that make sense. Product design decisions in the community were really interesting for me to listen to, because School is like, there's a lot going on inside of School. Okay, a lot going on inside of School. But at every step along the way, he's tried to make things as simple as possible for people that are using it, and then people that are buying products from other people that are using it. So a very quick and easy way to think about it is just like, hey, what does the menu look like? Like what does the dashboard look like? In all of these products that are competing products that have community hosting features and so on and so forth, they'll have like an admin view and a dashboard view, admin view and a user view. He's like, well, why would we have 2 views? That's really complicated. We'll just make 1 view. And then if you're an admin, you'll just have a little settings button. That's it. So it seems simple, right? Seems extraordinarily simple. It's not. There's a lot that goes on under the scenes, but Sam makes all of the user experience decisions and stuff like that extraordinarily straightforward. And this is present in like the School interface. This is present in like the products, and so on and so forth. Okay, that's really big. Number 2 is Sam Ovens. While I was chatting with him about all of this stuff, School and so on and so forth, I noticed that he would like pause a fair amount, and he wouldn't like answer me right away. And I think a lot of people could see this from the outside in as somebody that just like isn't very conversationally capable or whatnot. And I say this totally objectively speaking. This is like a really smart man. When he started doing this at the very beginning of like the School games or whatever, we were all kind of like anticipating, like waiting for him to say something. He'd just be kind of quiet for a bit, and then he'd start talking. Sam is not only ruthlessly simple with the business side of things, School and products and so on and so forth, but he's ruthlessly simple with the communication side of things. So clarity in comms is extraordinarily important to him. And I don't know to what degree he thinks about this, and then to what degree this is just natural to him. But like if that guy says a word, the information density of the sentence is extraordinarily, extraordinarily high. He's basically spent, I imagine, the last like half decade just like teaching himself to be extremely concise with everything that he says. And in contrast to people that just talk a lot like me, when he says something, everybody listens. And it's so interesting. It is by far one of the most interesting things I've ever seen. I've read stories about people like this before. And I've, read one of my favorite books, The Name of the Wind. I think there was a character like this that just like didn't talk very much. But then when he did, everybody kind of leaned in. It was like, oh, shit, what's he saying? Well, the value of not talking a lot is when you do say something, people tend to assume or expect that it is going to be very important. And so he just gets a lot of benefit as a result of that. So a big thing that I'm taking away from this is that I need to be a lot clearer in the way that I speak. I use a lot of big words, when I'm trying to explain topics. And I think these are really just like cover-ups for me not fully understanding what it is that I'm talking about. So when I saw him do it, and this is like, somebody that's managed, he's currently managing, as I mentioned, a platform that like people are making over $1 billion on, or the users of the platform are making over $1 billion, driving over $1 billion on. Like this is by no means a small feat, right? At this level, you don't have to be this super smooth, suave, badass or whatnot. You need to be clear, and that's what he focuses on a lot. Okay, that's really big. The third thing is the degree to which he invests in teams. He invests a ton into teams and really the community. And I guess that's not super out of left field considering he runs a community platform. But literally the entire time that we were talking, every second word was just like, our team is incredible. Our team is fantastic. We hire from the best places. We hire the most cracked engineers. We hire the best team members. And just the degree to which he, I guess, was taking steps back from his organization and then focusing at like very high leverage input point, which was like hiring people as opposed to trying to manage everything himself, as in a way that I do, for instance, was really illuminating to me as well. Because he probably spends like a fifth of the time that I spend on any one individual thing. But then that time is all spent on acquiring the best talent and then motivating, being extraordinarily clear with expectations and communications, and then putting about, I imagine, very simple SOPs that enable the team members to take on all of that slack, and not just take on the slack, but actually do really cool things organically from that. Now, these men are significantly older than me, both of them. I think they're both in their mid-30s now, mid or late 30s, I'm not entirely sure. And I think that this is just like an evolution of, a business owner. But I'm at that point where I'm still doing the vast majority of all of this stuff myself. And I do it myself because I just know that I'm the best at the specific thing that I'm doing. And I don't want to compromise on the experience. But one big thing I learned from both of them was that there are some areas that it does make sense to take a step back. And it's not necessarily about compromising the experience. It's about being willing to let go enough that you can direct your attention towards higher leverage things that ultimately improve the experience even more. And so these are the main takeaways that I had from both the school games and then these two standout individuals who are making more money than probably some small countries are at this point. So where am I going to go from here? I'm going to do a number of things. I'm going to change the degree to which I'm doing everything on my own. Right now, like I was, responding to all my emails totally on my own. I was like managing my schedule completely on my own. I was doing just a fair amount of like this low-level grunt work on my own, simply because the mental calculus to me is always, hey, Nick, you could do this yourself and it would take you 10 minutes, or you could hire somebody else and then they do it in, 30 minutes and then they do a shittier job than you. And, if I'm honest, if I'm delegating a part of my schedule, it is unreasonable for me to expect that somebody would be better at doing all of the stuff that I am amazing at, right? So I'm going to be taking some hit to it. But what I've realized is, like, it is okay to take some hit to some things as long as the things aren't very important and do not meaningfully impact the experience of the customers that trust me with their money, because it'll allow me to take a step back to focus on delivering higher value to them through other means. Good example of this is I've been unable to do a product that I've been wanting to do for a while for Make Money with Make, which is my higher tier community that I charge $368 a month for. And in Make Money with Make, I want to show people how to take a working business model and then scale it even further through the use of productization, templates, SOPs, and so on and so forth. And so because I've been focused on very low leverage things, maybe not necessarily low leverage things, but I've been like a little too hands-on and micromanagey with the work that I've been doing, I've been unable to justify spending time on that. And it's been like 2 or 3 months since I initially announced it to the group. So I want to make that product, but I've been working too much in my business, not necessarily on my business. And that's one big thing that I have to fix if I want to take that next step forward, I think. So yeah, just my own takeaways there. I imagine I'm probably going to see a short-term revenue dip, most likely, as I try and figure out how all of this stuff is going to work. And I think it's natural for me to like take that step back and then architect the next stage. Because the way that I've always seen my business journeys has always been some variant of this. I will have some big success and some massive step change, and then I will plateau as I figure out how to go further. And I mean, maybe the very first time I did this was when I started my first business. And, I grew very quickly while I was starting that first business, but because of my pre-existing beliefs and habits and skills, I quickly came into a lot of resistance at growing above that level. And so it took a fair amount of time to kind of like, I don't know, like boil the water, if that makes sense, where you don't really see the water gaining energy as it gets hotter and hotter and hotter until all of a sudden you see the massive step change with, the next thing that I did, which is business number 2. And so on and so on and so on and so forth. So where I feel like I've landed now is, objectively speaking, I've gone much, much farther from that. If we're just talking in terms of like income, like I'm probably up to here now. Okay. And this was me with my current combination of products and my current combination of revenue sources. And now I'm doing, like affiliates as well, and sponsorships, and goddamn, do I have a lot of freaking revenue sources now. I'm still doing 1 second copy. I mean, I just, the money is coming in. It's fantastic. But I'm reaching this natural upper bound to how much I could push it with my current mindset, methodology. Everything's like Nick focused. And so I imagine I'm going to have this big plateau as I figure all this stuff out. And this is where I'm at right now before I'm going to grow again. And I think this is going to be one of the big leaps forward, really, whose magnitude may outsize all the rest of these. So yeah, I mean, call it selfish, call it me just yapping on about my own journey, which I know not everybody wants to hear about all day. But this is just the way that I'm conceptualizing my own growth, and going to the school games, talking to Alex Hormozi, talking to Sam Ovens, and talking to everybody else in the team there. Was really, really, really helpful for me to break free of that. And I'm excited to see where I go from here. So thank you very much for listening. Hopefully I was able to distill at least some of the learnings that I had, and it wasn't just me yapping about myself all day. If you guys have any questions on this, let me know. I'm going to get back to the Q&As tomorrow. Thank you very much, and have a lovely rest of the day. All right. Take care, guys.